Thank you for joining us. Hello, and welcome to Confessions of a SoFi Junkie. This is a vibrant discussion on why online financial institutions like SoFi have risen in popularity and what you can learn from them. My name is Eric LaRose. I'm the lead content producer for the VX Group, and I'll be your moderator for today. One thing, again, before we start, if we're going to have the Q&A session at the end. Just click the Q&A button and type in your question, and we'll get to all of those at the end of discussion. This discussion is brought to you by the VX Group. A little bit about us. We're based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and Charleston, South Carolina. We work with companies in the banking, industrial manufacturing, heavy machinery, food and beverage, and chemical industries to increase top-line revenue growth through experienced business leadership and efficient execution of our sales modernization programs. Everything from new customer acquisition to sales channel development, sales team performance, sales operations, and sales team recruitment. But we are not here to talk about us today. We are here to talk about a new trend in the banking industry, new age financial institutions like SoFi. And for this discussion, we are bringing in Amy Schultz, who is our VP of Integrated Sales. Amy, how are you doing today?
Hey, everybody. I'm doing well. I actually woke up a little under the weather, but I will be here and present and answer any questions that anybody has.
All right, good. Got to power through those things.
That lovely flu that's going around. So.
Oh, yes, it's just great, isn't it? All right. Well, Amy has extensive experience working with traditional banking and lending institutions and recently became, as we are calling it, a SoFi junkie. So, Amy, talk a little bit about yourself. In your bio, it says that you've done a lot of work with banks. Tell us a little bit about your experience.
Sure. Well, actually, prior to being a consultant for businesses and banks and manufacturers, I was in the financial industry for approximately 20 years. My career started in the mortgage industry, and when I saw the downfall of the lending institutions, let me also say I did securities and financial advising too at that time. I jumped ship and became a commercial and business banker for a couple different institutions.
Okay, all right. So not only have you worked with banks, up until recently, you relied almost solely on traditional banking institutions for your financial needs, right?
Sure. I guess not necessarily traditional banks all of the time, but traditional ways of utilizing banking, such as lending and financial institutions, including going to a location, meeting with a live person, having a one-on-one meeting at some point, the traditional flow of a process for acquiring, whether it be a loan or an account or some type of financial advising. Yes.
Okay. All right. So a few people have joined us since we started talking here. Just wanted to let you know we are going to be answering questions at the end of the discussion. If you have a question, just click the Q&A button and type it in, and we will get to all of them at the end. Amy was just talking a little bit about, her time working with traditional banks and working for them. Did you like working in the banking institute? Sorry, did you like working in banking?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a finance person, so, helping my clients, customers, however it be, get a better financial position. That was my goal. Yeah, absolutely. And being a commercial and business banker, my time sort of being that trusted advisor with the companies that were in my portfolio, that really led me to understanding that, companies have needs, both financial and sales growth wise. And so that's why I ended up leaving the financial institutions and becoming more on the consulting side and helping, organizations learn how to grow their revenues from a top line revenue perspective and understanding really from a banker's point of view, in addition to a customer's point of view. So I have a sort of a unique approach and a unique view to all of this stuff that's going on in the world digitally, especially regarding financial transactions.
Okay. Digitally is kind of what we're talking about today, because recently you had a big change in your life. And because of that, you came across an opportunity to refinance some debt with a company that we're talking about today called SoFi. And before you had brought this to my attention, I really had not heard of SoFi. I recognized afterwards I'd seen their commercial a number of times, but just kind of, spaced out through it. So tell me a little bit, what is SoFi, and how did you end up working with them, especially since you've worked with pretty much traditional banks your entire career?
Sure. Yes, I had a recent large move across the country due to a job promotion with my husband. But being in the finance world and knowing that I have my finances sort of in check, I wasn't looking for anything. I truly wasn't looking for any type of lending or banking or anything. I was just trying to get settled into my new location. But the reality is that SoFi showed up in my social media. And they showed up in my social media for a couple weeks and a couple different times with the same messaging, yet a little bit different twist.
Mm-hmm.
My message, it was all about consolidating debt without collateral to secure it. As a banker, with my banking hat on, red flags go up right away. So
right.
It took me a while to finally click on it and to play with it a little bit, and ended up landing on their homepage.
Okay. All right. And so for those of you who aren't familiar with what this company is, we're just going to put up a few basic SoFi facts for you here. Let's just, and you can read them as we're kind of discussing it here. So they found you through social media. Somehow they found you on Facebook, and you decided to look into what SoFi was. What did you find? And then how did you end up, refinancing with them?
Sure. Well, when I landed on their homepage, what struck me as really sort of what we tout with our customers is a landing page, or the homepage that they go to, that I went to, was very simple. They use layman's terms, lots of transparency. Here's our process. Here's what we can do for you. Here are the options for the rates and terms. And truly laying out the expectations. And I'm going to stress the simplicity of it. An extremely clean landing page, website that attracted me. There wasn't all of this other stuff that I needed to sort of clog my brain with, but extremely clean. Now,
okay.
Even though
we're going to put that up real quick too.
Yeah, here even though I landed on the page and started exploring the process, I truly didn't move forward with them for approximately a week and a half.
Okay.
Because I was just, entertaining the idea, if you will.
Mm-hmm. All right. And in that time, did they remind you that you had showed a little bit of interest?
Of course, they have the process on the back end, obviously somewhat automated, to let me know that I had clicked through. I think I probably entered my name and email or something of that sort, but didn't finish anything else just because I don't know. I'll just say I wasn't really that interested in it, but they did continuously follow up with me, as I'm sure everybody else is when they click on certain websites. It's sort of, they continue to sort of follow you or remarket
to you. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's exactly what happened to me. And then I chose to finally move forward once I realized that the terms and the rates that they were giving me were extremely attractive.
Okay.
So we'll go from there.
Okay. All right. So you decide to apply. Talk a little bit about the application process. And I am going to tell everybody real quick here, this is not a commercial for SoFi. We're just walking you through the process, so you can kind of compare and contrast to what your organization is doing. So again, Amy, talk a little bit about the application process once you decided to go forward.
Sure. The application process was, black and white, straight to the point. Enter a little bit of your information. They're going to do a soft pull on my credit report. Obviously not going to affect my credit with a hard pull. And then they were going to follow up with me on what my options were if I wanted to continue with them. And, after I did that, it did share with me what I was approved for and if I wanted to continue with the full process and with a full credit pull.
Okay. All right. So I'm, assuming you went through the entire process, and, I know you're good for a loan.
Right.
So you were approved at some point in time, and then how quickly did you get the money?
Sure. I guess I want to stress that everything was done digitally. I never talked to a person.
Hmm.
They gave me the option to chat with somebody or make a call, and I was so comfortable with the process that I didn't. So the reality is, I was approved and with terms and conditions, pretty much right away once I said, okay, do a hard credit pull and, here's my supporting documents. And it wasn't much. And literally I was funded within 3 days,
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
from the
All right.
start to finish.
All right. I want to get back to that here. So you went through this entire process and pretty much got to the absolute end. And that's when you talked to a real person.
Yeah, the first time I truly talked to a real person, and really what they explained to me was the only reason for it was to confirm that I was a real person and to
Hmm.
confirm the information that I put in the application was correct and I could recite it back to them. That was literally the only time, and that was late in the day in the afternoon. And by the next morning, money was in my bank account. What was really neat about that is that I did not have to allocate or tell them where I was allocating the funds for consolidating. It was based on my information. And I want to point this out is it wasn't a true black and white, you're either approved or you're not. They take your story into account. They take your education level into account. They take other things into account, which I found pretty impressive.
Okay. All right. So it's not just a numbers game. The whole social financing comes with a social aspect of seeing where you are.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So, one of the interesting things, based on our discussions that we've had on this is that they kept you, they kept broadcasting messages to you even after the transaction was done, and kind of kept you engaged with SoFi. And how did they do that?
Yeah, I found their engagement to be very unique from an engagement standpoint. From, again, being with a traditional bank, once they're a customer, yeah, you keep in touch with them and yeah, they're on your email blast and that type of thing, but truly not the engagement that I felt here. If I were to equate it to anything, it was probably more like if anybody is a part of a credit union, sort of a membership. They treated me like a member to the special group, right? So after the loan funded, a couple days later, I received this package in the mail, and the package includes all these additional things that I could utilize through SoFi that they never hit me up on the front end. So again, that was attractive to me. Not that I have utilized anything else, but this is where they said, okay, financial advising, just basically, life insurance, student loans, anything else. They gave me this really neat package of, and you're seeing here, some flyers. Included
Mhm.
in that package, I just have to say, unexpected, was a t-shirt.
Right.
And, a t-shirt, extremely cheap, whatever, but not expecting a t-shirt with their logo on the front of it. Very comfortable. You can tell it's a higher end t-shirt.
Mhm.
So anyway, that's what I received from them directly after the process.
Yeah, I did some digging around on the web too and found some other things that they're sending to people, first time home buying guides and, just information on, saving for college for your kids, things like that. Just stuff to keep you engaged. And then, of course, your famous T-shirt.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And what you could see from the screen prior was just, I guess, what impresses me and what keeps it engaging for the person is how clean their digital marketing is.
Mhm.
Extremely clean, extremely transparent, to the point.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to breeze past here. There's another one that I found that I actually thought was kind of neat looking was this bag.
Hmm,
It's,
interesting.
it's like, so I guess, do you wear this thing around? Are you a walking billboard for them now or?
I am. I
Okay.
wear it very often, especially because my relocation was to the West Coast. T-shirts are a useful garment, so I wear it quite often. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Unfortunately, I'm in Wisconsin right now, and the T-shirt is not a useful garment as I look outside and see these snow-covered roads. Um,
Exactly.
all right. So one of the things we wanted to do here was do a comparison. You're in such a unique position here. You've worked with traditional financial institutions. You've tried out this new age financial institution, SoFi. And I just wanted to walk through a little bit of the pros and cons that you found with SoFi and the pros and cons that you found with your years of experience with traditional banking. We'll start with SoFi. Clicked over to that. Talk a little bit about these pros and cons.
Well, we'll just go through each one. The pros, as I explained, extremely easy application process. Everything was online, which for me, a busy executive, I appreciate it, right? Extremely fast approval and loan funding. When I was a banker and we had business owners or persons apply for loans, it took an extremely long time to finally get that approval. Rate discounts, depending on if you have the auto pays and that type of thing. Also rate discounts if obviously combine, right, services. Complementary financial advising and career coaching. They're taking a very unique approach regarding that whole career coaching because they feel that that's a strong aspect of their marketing. Right. What's really interesting, networking events might sound weird, but once I became a customer or a member, I'll put in quotes, they invite me to networking events of all other folks who, sort of cocktail hours, all other folks who are part of SoFi and who have taken some type of the
SoFi plunge.
Yes, the SoFi plunge, if you will. I have not participated in any of those to date. They do send me pictures and they target where I live. They target my area. They have them very often, which is interesting. And obviously what was attractive is, well, the debt consolidation type of loan or personal loan I received from them was unsecured. That was very nice. And as I spoke about, their website, simplistic, transparent, to the point. Now, on the cons, after I became a member, received a lot of mail, even though during their process, they said they do not sell my information. Obviously, this loan now shows up on my credit report and other lending institutions see that I did that. So my direct mail has been inundated. Right. Not from an email perspective. It's all been direct physical mail.
Yeah. You said you had a huge stack that you had to take to recycling.
Yeah, I put them in the paper recycling. Mortgages not available in 21 states. I think obviously they're trying to alleviate that, but from a mortgage perspective, they're not quite big enough or don't have enough engagement there. A con, which it could be a con, is all online because some people still do prefer the one-on-one experience. As of right now that I know of, they don't have a deposit. They don't take deposits. They don't have a checking or savings account or CDs or anything like that. Not to say that they're probably not looking into that. I'm unsure. Right. And Eric, you can speak to this next one.
Yeah, this one was actually kind of a strange one that I found. Traditional banks, deposits are secured by the FDIC. They're regulated regulated by the Federal Reserve and the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency. SoFi is not. They are regulated individually by states and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And this was interesting. When I started researching this, the CFPB is, the Trump administration has shown an avid interest in reining them in, possibly even defunding them. So not exactly sure what that means for entities like SoFi, but the whole regulation thing, it seems, you'd like a bank to be regulated. You'd like a financial institution to have a set of ground rules. Yeah. So anyway, so now we're going to go on to traditional banking. From your experience, talk a little bit about the pros.
Sure. Of course, traditional banks or credit unions are established, highly regulated. Accounts are protected up to $250,000 typically, and lots of options. Now, I'll also talk about that later as a potential con, but from the cons perspective, public perception, again, old, right?
Yeah.
That's where my grandparents and parents, that's how they bank. They still walk into a teller and things like that, even though the older generation is trying to
millennials, for some reason, don't like to leave their house. That's what that's what
Exactly.
all the research shows. They don't want to talk to real people.
Right. A con, again, pro or con could be you have to talk to someone.
Mhm.
Extra fees, red tape. Now, I'll say red tape from the perspective of the length of time that when I was a banker, it took from application to funding or not funding to finally give somebody an answer. So
Right.
that's what I call red tape.
And a
Um,
lot of smaller institutions, your community banks have different approval processes. They, one of our clients, they still do all of their approvals in-house at a local level.
yeah,
So there are some, but you're talking about the larger institutions
I'm
that,
generalizing. Yeah,
yeah, it's, there's
absolutely.
the perception by the public.
Right.
Uh,
You have to talk to a new person for each new financial product you're interested in or need. A definitive process for approval or decline. Rarely approved with compensating factors, especially from a personal lending standpoint. I'm pretty sure that's probably continuing today. The website. Now let's talk about the website, right?
mhm.
Majority of banks that we have worked with or are planning on working with, their websites are cluttered with everything that they do, trying to get it all landing on one page. So people
Right,
have to now click through and try to find the information.
right.
So it
And
is hard to find.
that was a design trend for a while. It started off where people would have a homepage that was basically just the name of their business. And then people within the organization said it's really hard to find stuff for auto loans. It's really hard to find stuff for credit cards or and so on and so on and so on. So using a journalism term, everybody tried to put everything above the fold, right on the homepage. And what they did is they created these websites that have all the answers right in front of you, but there are so many answers, it's hard to find the one that you're actually looking for.
Right. And as we know from a sales and marketing perspective and the opportunity to grow your revenues, you need a sense of ease for your customer to find what they're looking for, or for you to guide them to find. And like exactly what SoFi did to me. I was not looking for a debt consolidation, but they found me and they presented it in such a way that it attracted me.
Okay. All right. So now, and this is pretty much what everybody's been waiting for. What can traditional banks learn from what SoFi is doing?
Well, we have talked about the website a lot,
Mhm.
and what we recommend for our customers, not only banking customers, but we work with other businesses, manufacturers, that distributors that tend to want to shove everything in onto one website. Well, I'm hoping that as you click around on the internet these days, you've noticed that websites are going extremely clean.
Mhm.
And what that means is big words. So the older folks can read them without
Mhm.
putting their readers on.
And so people can see them on mobile.
Right. And
Yeah.
you have to, instead of you clicking through to different tabs, you just scroll down the page and you'll find the tab or the box that you click on looking for what you're looking for. So we tend to recommend that for each service or subsector, you create a new landing page, a new clean website for that particular service. And that's how you market that particular service. Continuous suggestions and recommendations, the automation, the drip, the e-blast on the back end, from a marketing standpoint, you have to touch somebody 8 times for them to finally respond. And in reality, that's probably how many times or close to it that SoFi touched me before I moved forward with them. Regarding the get automated standpoint, automation is key. There are a lot of very cheap automation tools, but you have to know how to use them and implement them in your process.
Right, right. And there, I know compliance is a big deal for banks out there, and there are automated programs that already have that compliance built in.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of people who still, they want to go through the process, but they don't want to go through, you know,
Right,
they want to fill out a little bit and then come back.
right. Get back to that small town feeling. I mean, even though SoFi is not a credit union or an entity as such, they made me feel like I'm a part of them. So it really, they figured it out how to do it digitally. Most small banks, small to medium sized banks that probably are on the call today have a physical location, but you can still get that small town feeling from a digital perspective and an in-person perspective. And that's what we help our customers do too.
Okay. All right. Exclusive club. You mentioned the whole membership thing.
Yeah, I think I pretty much explained it there. Once you become part of utilizing their services, utilizing messaging to that aspect on their follow-up communications is very strong. The next tab here is get social, not just on social media. Invite people to workshops, which I know banks do and things like that, but there are additional ways to do that and additional messaging that works today.
Right.
Not just saying we have this, and this, right?
Yeah. Lunch and learns, things like that are incredibly effective, but so is just, an open forum where people can come and have a cup of coffee with you, or have a donut, or
right.
Get some focaccia. I don't know what people like, but just bringing them together and just having a conversation.
Right.
And also starting those conversations online through social media. It's been very effective. Just putting things out there that are of interest to younger people thinking about saving or buying their first home.
Right. Or the baby boomers. I mean, I've got to tell you, baby boomers are not on Facebook. If you're not touching them there, you're missing a huge opportunity. And the last point, sort of tongue in cheek, but give them a t-shirt. I mean, it's so extremely minute from a cost perspective. I'm a walking billboard now for SoFi. They gave me a high end, very soft, I can't even tell you the brand right now, but it's totally for me. Now, one thing that, we pointed out the other day is how did they get my size? I have no idea, but they sent me the right size.
Which is still a little creepy when I think about it. It's like, maybe it was just a good guess.
It potentially could be. I don't know how to answer that, but what I can tell you is from a social media and a digital perspective, social media has over 2,000 data points that they collect on people as you maneuver through the digital age. So they've got your information. So I've probably clicked on clothing stores of sizes of what I am and what I look for to buy, and maybe they pull that data. I can't tell you, but if utilizing social media in a digital perspective, Google AdWords, that type of thing is extremely key to keeping people engaged these days.
Okay. All right. Well, we're approaching the Q&A portion of this. Again, if you'd like to ask a question, there is a button that says Q&A in your menu. Click it and just type in your question. Let's see here. Let's see if we have any so far. Okay, so here's one. I work for a mid-sized bank, and you mentioned that SoFi isn't regulated the same way we are. How are we supposed to compete with that?
From a competition perspective, everybody's going to have their products and services and going to have their rates. Truly, the attraction for me is the messaging and the process that you take the people through.
Right.
Banks, prior to me coming into being in finance, I didn't even know what the word mortgage was. And I have to assume that there are a lot of uneducated financial folks in this world, and a lot of them are probably your customers. So they don't know what to ask for with the plethora of services that you have. You have to sort of guide them from a messaging and a marketing perspective and make sure that you put things in layman's terms of how it could affect them. That's the best advice I can give.
Okay. All right. We have another one. What would be an example of services to break out into separate pages? That's interesting. Yeah.
Well, obviously, right. If you did a sub page for mortgages only and only messaged for the potential first-time home buyer, FHA, VA, however that is, that's something that we can definitely help you discern what that could be.
Right.
Another
and
would be
there's so much information that goes with mortgages. It's
It's
to try to
overwhelming.
put it all on just one page of a website that has 100 pages might not, it's not the most effective tool. You can really set up a website that could teach people about mortgages and teach people about the mortgage process in depth.
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
for banks, being a banker, I know that holding deposits can be a positive. It could be a negative.
Mhm.
Your lending is going to be probably one of the number one areas that your business or your credit union is going to make money. And so breaking out your lending, auto loans, have that be a separate page, because people come to a lot of credit unions or small banks for auto loans, mortgages. I mean, just think about your services that you think you could go after from a digital or social media, or even just a door flyer perspective, that would be much cleaner and clearer and crisper. And I'll just say, walk through SoFi's process. I mean, they have it down.
Mhm.
Not to say we wouldn't recommend additional things or other ways, because they're not exactly apples to apples. But I guess from a lending perspective, I'd probably start with the loans that you have available.
Okay. All right. Here's another one. Obviously, we don't have the marketing budgets a company like SoFi has. With all the new competition out there, what are some ways we can cut through the clutter?
Well, I think, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it's like there's so many ways. It's really, it comes down to identifying your ideal customers, finding out where your ideal customers are, and broadcasting messages directly to them.
Yeah. And
That's
like
what
I
I would
said,
say.
Facebook they're like the Bible of information. If you're not marketing in some form or fashion, or inviting people to get to know you through Facebook, you're missing a huge opportunity, because you can target folks based on their age, their demographics, their liquid assets, last car loan they owned, their buying behaviors, their interests. I mean, fortunately and unfortunately, they've collected all this data on all of us that participate.
Yeah.
So you have a big pool to market to right there. Not saying that that's the end all be all.
Right, right. And, unfortunately for a lot of banking institutions, they have collected so much information. You have to avoid the temptation to advertise to certain groups because of compliance. But that information is there. It is absolutely amazing
Absolutely.
how, yeah. I mean, plus, you're local. You know where people go. Set up an event there. Set up a lunch and learn. Talk to the community groups. There's a business association. There's an association for young professionals. Have somebody from your organization get involved in those things, and cut through the clutter on a personal level. That's where you guys have the most bang for your buck, and the advantage over companies like SoFi.
And the reality is, when a new prospect or a new potential customer hears about you, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to Google you and bring up your website. If your website, I mean, we always start with what is your first point of contact with your customer? If it's not marketing, if it's not from a clean messaging perspective, it's your website. And if your website is not marketing or saying the right things to make people feel that they're a part, or they understand what what they're looking at, or not using such high level terms, that's a significant advantage. So when we become involved with our customers, we typically will take a look at how is your website messaged, and then we break things out into actionable items to make sure that you have a return on your investment, and that you're seeing an ROI from every actionable item that we then help ascertain for you.
Okay. All right. This is actually kind of a funny one. You mentioned SoFi found you on Facebook. How did they know to look for you?
Who knows?
Especially since, and that's funny because you weren't looking to be a customer. You weren't looking for a loan, but they found you somehow. Just kind of wondering what kind of criteria they use for that.
Yeah, I can't tell you exactly what they use from it, but I do know that You can target people. I mean, maybe it was because I put messages out there about our big move and that we're moving cross country. And maybe they target people that are recently relocated or had a change of address. I don't know what to tell you about that. I just know that you have a huge allotment of criteria that you can target folks utilizing social media. And I'm not only talking Facebook, obviously there's Instagram and other things, and Google AdWords is very advantageous too. But I guess I don't know how to answer that question exactly, other than
right.
It got my behaviors down somehow.
Yeah, they're creepy. There we go. There's the answer to that question. It's some creepy stalker thing. All right. I actually have a question here. And it's one that we kind of touted when we were promoting this. You strayed a little bit from traditional banking. What could traditional banks do to not necessarily win you back, but get you to engage with them as opposed to going with somebody like SoFi?
I would say approach me the same way SoFi did. For me, I truly, for me, have not walked into a traditional bank for 3 years since I set up my daughter's savings account. When she was 11 years old. That was the last time I truly walked in and needed somebody's help for anything. I do everything that I can digitally, and that includes, and the trend is going that way. Everybody does their shopping digitally. It's definitely every year a larger and larger market. So from that perspective, if you're not marketing digitally, start doing so. Okay.
All right. And let's see. I think that is all the questions we have for today. Got one more just popped in. Trying to pull in new business customers from our local community. What are your suggestions of generating new business for my bank with a more local outreach that requires both a marketing focus on keeping brick and mortar clients and an online client base? That is a mouthful there.
It is. I guess that's a lot of questions sort of all in one. I would recommend, especially, banks, your products, how to lend, how to attract people for certain accounts, right? You have to ask for help. And that's, something that we are here for. We help banking institutions, help them develop those processes and understand that a radius around your brick and mortar building is one way. We can approach that communication a couple different ways. And I think I mentioned them, whether it be through the mail, which I'm now getting way on the back end of my SoFi from other lenders, or if it's digitally, or, obviously there's television and radio still, but the reality is that the customers that we work with, once we show them, I'll call it the new way, right? It's sort of a new world that they pull their advertising budget from their radio or television, and they end up pushing it on more of a digital or local strategy,
right?
And us helping them navigate what that could be.
Okay, all right. And I'm going to give everybody a 10 count here to see if there are any more questions. So I'm not going to actually count to 10. I can do it, but I'm not going to. So it looks like we don't have any more questions for today. So I think we're going to wrap up about 5 minutes early. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today. This was a lot of fun. I hope you learned something. If you do have any questions in the meantime, if you think of something afterwards, you can always contact us through our website. It's the vxgroup.com. Amy, thank you so much for sharing your expertise today.
Oh, you're welcome. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, and we, to all of you participating, we'd love to have a chance to talk to you one-on-one about any sales or marketing challenges you're facing. We'll be sending each of you a follow-up email where you can schedule a more personalized conversation with us. And a rebroadcast of this discussion will be available on our website, thevxgroup.com/webcasts. Thank you, everybody, again today for participating. Have yourself a great day and keep fighting the good fight.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.